Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Yes, I know it has been a long old while. I promise more videos are coming. I've started Project Summit and Project Archive a little while back, so that's been my main focus. But I prepared a couple sort of mini videos that will come out over the next few weeks, hopefully. So today we're going to go over my top 10 favorite heroes of WoW. We will go over the top 10 villains in another video, and I will say this list was quite difficult to chop up. I've got a list of every single hero and every single villain in the game, and it took quite a while to choose from. So anyway, let's get on with the video. This number 10 spot was quite difficult to choose. There are a lot of semi-good heroes of Azeroth, but one out of all of them I think was the Daughter of the Seas. She outranks, I think, all of them. Jaina Proudmoore hasn't really been a good role model for a hero apart from her involvement in the BFA expansion, where she just turns up out of nowhere and saves the Alliance at the Battle of Lordaeron. Then she gets exiled by her mom, but then she goes back and saves her. Then she becomes badass. She saves Borealis from Lady Ashvane's fleet. She summoned her brother back from the sea. She led a vicious assault on the Zara Law, bringing about one of the Horde's most devastating losses ever, so I think that alone is worthy enough to put her on the number 10. And the reason why she isn't higher is because of her tendency to outburst for no real reason, really, in Mr. Pandaria and Legion. Slightly better than Jaina Proudmoore is a bit of an unusual pick, Bran Bronzebeard. This guy has been all around the world. I believe the first time we know of his existence is in Silithus, where he visited this cave, I believe. Otherwise, the first time we actually see him is in Wrath of the Lich King in Halls of Stones. He pops up again in the Halls of Lightning, and then the Halls of Origination. And I think that's the last time we see him until Legion, where he pops up in the Broken Isles looking for demonic artifacts. But this guy is like the WoW version of Indiana Jones. He's the expert treasure hunter, better and more experienced with facing danger than, I think, Harrison Jones and Belloc Brightblade. But in general, this guy doesn't need any explanation. Next up I have Thrall. Thrall the World Shaman, as he's referred to by the aspects, has also been all around the world. He was the original war chief of the Horde. He aided the Night Elves in the Battle of Mount Hyjal back in the day. He was held captive by Adelis Blackmore. He left the Horde briefly to help save Azeroth from Deathwing. Then he went on numerous campaigns for the defense of Azeroth. And he's just a very well-rounded character. Easily outbeats a lot of all the other WoW heroes. I will just mention the way that he was introduced was really, really cool. How he's a green-skinned orc, but he's not affected by the Curse of Manoroth like the others were, like Grimar Shellscream, and he would unite the various races of the Horde, like the Tauren and the Trolls, since they uphold similar aspects to the orcs. Next up is also a bit unusual, High Lord Darien Mograine. High Lord Darien Mograine is on this list because I believe he has one of the most tragic backstories compared to anyone else. He got denied to fight in the war against the Scourge. His brother Renaud Mograine killed his father, then got resurrected by the Scourge to be on the original Four Horsemen. Darien sacrificed his life trying to save his father, then had to serve the Lich King until Tyrion Fordring broke him free. And from that point on, he became the hero that he was always meant to be, vowing to bring an end to the Lich King. He sacrificed his life again, trying to resurrect Tyrion Forging and Legion, which I'll say probably wasn't the best idea. And then he aided us in our campaign against the Jailer. There's nothing left to say about him. He's had a long, tragic road, but regardless, he is very, very well liked in my book. Following the theme here of unusual picks, and probably one of the most underrated heroes of WoW, Vindicator Maraud. It took me a long time to realise that he's the guy in the Burning Crusade trailer. Up until Warlords of Draenor, he hasn't really done much. He was a quest giver in Wrath of the Lich King. I don't think he was ever seen in the Burning Crusade until he appeared in Warlords of Draenor. And boy, I gotta say, he just goes full sweat. He does not mess around, because those orcs massacred his fellow Draenei in his timeline, so he's doing everything he can to prevent that from happening again. And he goes out in the most heartbreaking way. He gets blown up on Blackhand's ship from an iron star that exploded. I think it's Black Fuse. But he uses the last of his strength to keep Uriel and us alive, which turned out to be one of my most favourite cinematics of all time. Especially when Uriel saves and teams up with Durotan to try and take out Blackhand, which didn't succeed, but still, it was nice to see. For number 5, this is going to be one of the originals, Chen Stormstout. I mean, come on, you think I was going to do a top 10 heroes list and not have a panda on here? Wrong. Chen Stormstout is a badass, more so than Vindicator Murad. Of course we see his prowess in the Mr. Pandaria cinematic, which was amazing. We see him for a decent amount of action in Pandaria. We help him recover his old family brew. He showed up to help defend the Serpent Spine from the Mantid. I believe we see him again where his family was held captive by the Mantid. Some of them were killed. It was very sad. And then I believe he showed up for the Horde Rebellion with Vol'jin in patch 5.3. Again, he's a very underrated character compared to the other hundreds of characters. Honestly, he's a 10 out of 10 character. Not even Taranzu or Ban Bearheart comes close. Okay, next up, Archmage Khadgar. An original. He is the first and only apprentice to the Guardian Medivh. He stayed behind on Outland to prevent any more orcs from invading Azeroth. He spearheaded the campaign on Draenor and provided us with a shiny legendary ring. We all loved doing that, didn't we? Then after that, he's been here and there. He's hung out with the Blue Dragons in Azuna. He was there shaking his head when the Horde were harvesting Azerite from Silithus. Then we didn't see him again until Caligos recruited him for the Dragon Isles campaign. He was there when we took down Razagath, and he helped defend the Azure Span from Razagath. So I'm waiting for him to do something a little bit more notable, but he's still one of my favourite heroes of all time. Number 3, favourite hero of the Horde, Varrock Saurfang. Varrock Saurfang, the old soldier, has been all around the world in lots of different wars. He was one of the originals of the Horde. He stood by Blackhand as he ransacked Shattrath. But when Thrall freed all the orcs from the blood of Manaroth, Saurfang did all he could to help his brothers from being captured by the humans. He then joined Thrall's Horde. He was the supreme commander in the War of the Shifting Sands. He played a big part in the war against the Lich King. He helped Thrall infiltrate Orgrimmar to dethrone Garrosh Hellscream. He played a massive part in the war for Tel'Jasol and the second Horde uprising to dethrone Sylvanas Windrunner as war chief. Challenged Sylvanas to Mak'gora, lost the Mak'gora, but in doing so freed the rest of the Horde from her control, which followed with the current lasting peace between the Horde and the Alliance. I mean, come on, how can this guy not be on this list? He's done so much, he's been through so much. Just the reason he just outshines all these other orcs like Thrall, like Garrosh, is that his whole motive is just about honour. No matter how dire the battle, never forsake it. Number 2 is going to be my favourite hero of the Alliance, King Varian Wrynn. One of my favourite heroes of all time, mainly because of how he looks and his sword. Out of any NPC in WoW, his armour and weapon is the one I'd want the most. And I must say, I was shocked that Charlemagne was not going to be an artifact weapon in Legion, maybe because it belongs to Anduin, which does make sense, but either way I would have loved to have Charlemagne as an artifact weapon. Varian Wrynn has also lived quite a tragic life, like Darien. He was enslaved by Rhaegar Earthfury after having amnesia. He met up with Brawl, Baremantle, and Valyria Sanguinar. They eventually broke free and was able to save Stormwind from Onyxia. Then we didn't see a whole lot of him until the campaign of Northrend. We saw him at the Battle of the Undercity. We saw him refuse the call to Ulduar. He spectated the trial of the Grand Crusader, and he was there in Icon Citadel, but just stood there. Yeah, so and it wasn't until Mr. Pandaria when he arrived to Pandaria himself to find Anduin, who was still missing at the time, and to try and poach the Blood Elves back into the Alliance after the Divine Bell incident. He was He was there when Orgrimmar got sieged the first time to kill Garrosh, and then we didn't see him again until the Legion expansion, where he set out immediately to fight tooth and claw with the Burning Legion, and that's got to be one of my favourite moments in WoW, the Battle of the Broken Shore, where he just goes out in the most badass way possible, defying Gul'dan and then getting blown up, which in the end, it did intensify the Horde versus Alliance war during Legion, and it would get worse in BFA. During Legion, I just couldn't believe they just killed off Varian like that, and didn't decide to resurrect him in the Halls of Valor. Very sad. Before we get to the number one, I have a few honourable mentions to make here. Xenagos. Xenagos was a real figure for his dragon kind, putting his flight first, but due to him being super old, he was not able to do much in the WoW storyline, but he will never ever be forgotten. Regent Lord Lorthmar Theron, he was one of those pure-blooded blood elves, unlike Calthus Sunstrider, who led them down the wrong path. Lorthmar just did everything right during his time. He was honourable, he stayed true to the Horde, and didn't put forth 1 ounce of loyalty towards Garrosh or Sylvanas for that matter. And I've always wondered what kind of leader he would be if Varian succeeded in poaching the Blood Elves from the Horde during the War for the Divine Bell. Realistically, he should have been the war chief when both Garrosh and Vol'jin were dethroned. Aethys Sunreaver, just like Lorthmar, pure-hearted blood elf, did not show any loyalty to Garrosh or Sylvanas. Actually has been a bit mistreated, since there was a lot of blame on him when Garrosh stole the Divine Bell from the Alliance, but he really didn't have anything to do with it, which is why he did not make this list. One last one I want to mention, Gnar. He was one of the biggest, baddest recluses in Warlords of Draenor, and that was the time when I did start playing as Horde mainly, so I really got hooked into Gnar back then, and I was so sad to see him die at the end of Frostfire Ridge of the quest line. If I did a video on the characters that died way too soon, Gnar would probably be near the top for sure. And finally, we are at the top spot. If Varian was number 2, then you're probably thinking who number 1 is. There are so many great heroes in WoW, but the number 1, I feel like I have to give it to Kalecgos. He was my number 1 way before the whole Blue Dragonfly questline was added in, which I'll touch on in a bit. Kalecgos has had a big history of being the most involved aspect. He did way more than Alexstrasza did post-war the Ancients, and I guess it kind of helps being really good friends with Khadgar and Ronan and Jaina, along with pretty much everyone in the current tour, since he is the granddaddy mage. He was present during the Nexus War, but didn't do much since he was an ambassador at that time. He was there to help the spellcasters of Azeroth obtain Tarragos' staff and stop an uprising led by Aragos, son of Malygos. He helped stop the Black Dragon invasion in Azshara. He helped defeat Deathwing. He helped defend the oldest living blue dragon from the Nightborn Prince. He helped defend the Azure Span from Razageth. He helped restore the Azure Archives. He did all these amazing things, and of course, he reunited the entire Blue Dragonflight, which is ultimately the single most greatest questline in the entire game. And it's just so heartwarming seeing all these old dragons reunite, finding blue dragons in hiding, Kalecgos officially becoming the aspect of magic, saving Malygos' soul so that he and Sindragosa can live the rest of their lives in the after, and it ended with probably one of the most saddest moments ever, Xenagos meeting his end. Obviously, he has stated that he has used many artifacts to keep himself alive, so that he can find someone who can take care of his kin, like Stalagosa and Imagosa. All these amazing things, plus his personality, which is what makes Kalecgos a far better hero over Varian and anyone in Azeroth. He is everything that Malygos should have been. He is a clear leader and father of dragonkind, much like Abyssian is everything that Deathwing should have been. So that is my list done. Thank you guys for watching. If the audio was a bit choppy, I am trying a new way of editing the audio, makes it a little bit easier. Again, apologies since it's been a while since I've uploaded, but more videos are coming. And I'd be curious to hear what your favourite hero of WoW is. If I got anything wrong about the lore, please feel free to let me know. I'm not the biggest lore expert on this game. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.